Kita mati. Tapi itu pokok tak ada salah. Tak boleh tumbang pokok. Sebalik kesotannya tahun. Tahu. Oh.
Dengan sebaik mungkin, jadilah mata dan telinga kepada Sultan Pahang. Jangan mungkin orang menceroboh tanah negeri Pahang ini.
They've farmed the land for decades and are now being called trespassers. A member of parliament was arrested trying to defend them, and the Sultan of Pahang is furious over what he calls illegal encroachment on state land. So what's really going on in Raub, Pahang? How did a story about durians explode into a crisis about land, power, now tinged with racial undertones? Hi, I'm Camelia. In this episode of Kini Explainer, we dig into the thorny roots of the Musang King controversy and why it's not just about the fruit anymore.
Telinga kerjaan masuk sini. Jadi dia bagilah tanah 8 ekar, 2 ekar. Jadi kita mesti minta, pasal janji. Mula-mula dia tak kasih, saya cakap jangan itu macam pasal suara janji. Kalau tak janji, kita tak mau masuk sini. Ini semua sini askar saja.
How did a sleepy district in Pahang become ground zero for a showdown between small farmers and corporate power? Welcome to Raub, once remote, now renowned as Malaysia's Musang King capital. Some orchards here have been around for decades, planted and cared for by settlers who first arrived in the 1970s during the heat of the communist insurgency. Back then, the government encouraged people to settle the land, grow crops, while keeping an eye out for guerrilla movements. In return, many were promised the land would one day be theirs. Technically, the land belongs to the state, but many of these farmers never received legal titles despite being promised land by the state government decades ago. In the early 2000s, many of these farmers shifted their focus to growing Musang King durians. Then around 2015, demand from China skyrocketed and Musang King prices surged. Durians were no longer just the king of fruits, they became green gold. That was when conflict began to brew. In June 2020, the Pahang state government handed out a 30-year lease for over 5,300 acres to a company called Royal Pahang Durian Resources, or RPDR-PKPP. And this is not just any company. It's co-owned by the State Agricultural Agency PKPP and a private firm linked to the Royal Palace. Its chairperson, Tengku Putri Iman Azlan, the eldest daughter of the Sultan of Pahang, Sultan Abdullah, Sultan Ahmad Shah. RPDR-PKPP was granted a lease of 30 years, with the option to renew for another 30. The company offered what it called a legalization scheme for farmers, but here's the catch. Farmers were required to sell their durians exclusively to Royal Pahang Durian Export Sendirian Berhad. The price, 33 ringgit per kilogram for grade A Musang King. Compare that to market rates, which typically ranges from 50 to 80 ringgit per kg and can fetch hundreds of ringgit per kilogram abroad. Royal Pahang Durian claimed farmers can still make a profit, but many call it exploitative. Some even call it modern-day slavery. Here's the heart of the dispute. Who has the right to this land? Is it the farmers who've worked these hills for generations, or the company that holds the legal paperwork and official backing? The clash came to a head in July 2020 when eviction notices landed on the doorsteps of durian farmers in Raub. They were given just 30 days to pack up and leave or be forcibly removed. But the farmers fought back. They formed the Save Musang King Alliance, or SAMKA, accusing the government and Royal Pahang Durian Resources of forcing a lopsided deal onto smallholders. SAMKA says they've been trying to apply for land titles and temporary cultivation permits for years, but their pleas were ignored. Now, under the legalization scheme, each farmer had to pay a levy of 6,000 ringgit per acre for land that many had already worked for decades. For a 10-acre plot, that's 60,000 ringgit, and that's before additional levies, which could push the total past 80,000 ringgit. Plus another 50 ringgit per acre went to the state government. Royal Pahang Durian Resources denied the scheme was exploitative. They said the levy was a one-off payment and that the plan aimed to protect the local durian industry. In August 2020, 204 of them filed for a judicial review at the Kuantan High Court, hoping to challenge the eviction. However, the court dismissed the application. The following year, they tried again, this time challenging the land occupation verification scheme. But again, the court ruled against them. The judge said the farmers had no legal right to the land, a decision now being appealed at the Court of Appeal.
Kita berkebun saja, mau kita buat apa? Jangan macam ni. Jangan macam ni, Tuan. Arahan, you boleh beritahu atasan. Sudah beritahu. Pekebun sedang nak berunding.
It's now 2025 and the conflict in Raub is far from over. Tensions exploded once again when enforcement officers arrived and began cutting down hundreds of Musang King durian trees in a disputed area. The operation led to a confrontation between Samka members and enforcement officers. Images of mature durian trees, some already bearing fruit, being felled sparked public outrage. For the farmers, this wasn't just about losing their harvest. It was the severing of a decades-long bond with the land they had nurtured. Raub MP Chow Yu Hui condemned the operation as inhumane, claiming it violated a Court of Appeal order dated May 28th. The court had prohibited any felling of trees or demolition of structures on the disputed land until the case is resolved, unless explicitly allowed by the court. The Pahang state government insists they follow the law, that the court order was not breached. Chow, who also serves as Samka's legal advisor along with the group's chairman Wilson Chang, was arrested under Section 186 of the Penal Code for obstructing public servants. Both were later released on police bail.
Saya pernah buat dalam ni banyak orang menceroboh tanah ni Pahang ni. Sudah sampai masanya kita berkeras dengan mereka yang mencerobohi tanah-tanah di negeri Pahang ni.
On April 14th, during a Hari Raya celebration in Jerantut, the Sultan of Pahang, Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah, issued a stern reminder: state land must not be encroached upon at will, and anyone involved must face action. His Majesty also called on the people of Pahang to be the eyes and ears of the authorities to report any illegal land grabs they see. But even in that firm message, there was room for diplomacy. The Sultan urged all parties to find a solution, amicably and peacefully. In a statement to Bernama, the Pahang State Legal Advisor Saiful Idris Zainuddin defended the enforcement action. He said the trees stood on illegally occupied land and were therefore not protected by any court order. He also pointed to earlier court rulings from the High Court and the Court of Appeal that affirmed the land belongs to the state, giving it the right to act against trespassers. But just 4 days later, on April 18th, His Majesty spoke again, this time calling for an end to the prolonged land encroachment crisis.
Masalah ini bukan baru bermula semalam. Ia telah berakar sejak lebih 4 dekad yang lalu. Ianya berlaku tanpa pengetahuan beta. Ketika itu saya masih lagi Tengku Mahkota Pahang yang tidak mempunyai kuasa dan peranan. Tetapi sekarang saya sudah pun menjadi sultan. Sampai masanya. Sudah sampai masanya kita semua celik mata.
But as with many land disputes in Malaysia, the narrative has taken a darker turn. It's now being racialized and politicized, framed by some as a clash between Malays protecting their land and Chinese farmers, seen as defiant trespassers, aided by DAP politicians. Some have even accused these leaders of betraying the rule of law.
Wah.
So are these farmers really trespassing on state land? Or is this controversy exposing something deeper? A long-standing flaw in how land is governed in Malaysia? At the heart of the issue is a legal reality. Under Article 74 and the 9th Schedule of the Federal Constitution, land matters fall squarely under the state government's authority. And here's the crux. Unless land has been formally granted or leased, it remains state land. So even if a farmer has cultivated the same orchard for 40 years without legal documents, they technically have no legal claim. This is the core dilemma unfolding in Raub. What's happening isn't just about durians. It reflects a much broader conflict between a push for economic development through high-value agriculture and the need to uphold the law and protect environmental sustainability. The issue also raises deeper questions. What is the actual status of land use rights for smallholder farmers? How transparent is state land administration? And what is the rationale behind granting exclusive rights to a single company to manage the entire Musang King durian supply chain in Raub? The soaring demand for Musang King in China has turned durian into a gold rush, sparking a planting frenzy, sometimes outside the bounds of law and regulation.
Kenapa yang diberi mau angkat semula? Tak diberikan nama hak milik.
Kalau ini syarikat ambil, kita balik semula tahun 80-an. Kita susah. Betul punya cakap.
Itu yang kita semua susah. Jadi tidur pun susah. Mau fikir kita kebun, anak semua kecil-kecil, mau kasih makan.
So far, the conflict in Raub remains unresolved. What's needed now is honest dialogue, open negotiation, and a genuine effort to find common ground between the farmers and the state government. Because the future of the king of fruits and the fate of those who have nurtured it for generations rest on the wisdom and will of all parties. Stay tuned to Malaysia Kini and Kinitv for the latest developments on this and other stories that shape our nation. And if you'd like to share your thoughts, leave your comment respectfully and thoughtfully, because mature discussions can pave the way to deeper understanding. I'm Camelia, reporting for Kinitv.